guys, welcome to the Dave Darren Show. Today's going to be a really cool show. I've got on two guests today. I've got Jeremiah. We're going to talk to Jeremiah about remote viewing. Now, first of all, remote viewing does not mean that you watch this program on Facebook Live and you don't call into the show. So the number to call into the show is 609-467-4000. After we talk to Jeremiah, during Jeremiah's segment, we're going to have someone call up who is part of some international remote viewing association. So we're going to find out what that is. I don't think Jeremiah even knows about this, so we're going to educate Jeremiah on something brand new. And then we're going to get to Sparky, who's going to talk about the fact that she has actually seen some UFOs. Now, I haven't seen any UFOs. Some people think I should fake it, and like my wife fakes her orgasms. But some people think I should fake it and say I've seen a UFO. But I'm the real guy out there that's not going to create an audience by saying, oh, well, we got a host who's actually seen a UFO. So we're going to talk to Jeremiah right now. We got Jeremiah. How's it going, man?
Hey, pretty good. Nice to see you again, man.
Hey, nice to see you too. Jeremiah and I used to work together, and it's kind of fun to see Jeremiah. I haven't seen him in a while. By the way, this is how I look now. I look a lot worse than I did like 6 years ago, don't I?
It's different. Yeah. Less corporate.
Yeah. This is not a look of me being abducted by an alien. This is a look of a guy that's been married 25 years. Okay. And this is also the look of a guy that in case there's a Star Trek that needs a Klingon, notice I've got the forehead here, the long hair. All I need is the wrinkles here. And I'm going to be in the next Star Trek episode where they need a good Klingon. So we're going to talk about remote viewing. Let's get to it right now. What is remote viewing?
That is a great question. I actually prepared for that because it's like there's so many different answers out there. I watch a lot of ghost shows, psychic medium shows, and there are a lot of psychic mediums who will say, oh, I do remote viewing. But remote viewing is literally just the process of tapping into what we call the Akashic records or the matrix or whatever you want to call it, and grabbing information, but you're doing it in a very, very logical way. There's a process to it. So, backing up, how I came into this was I was, driving, listening to George Norrie podcast. Ed Dames comes up, and this is late at night, and I start hearing this guy talk about all these things that he's remote viewed and the things that he can find out, that you could find out any answer that you wanted to anything in the world. And that really intrigued me. And they were pretty substantial claims. I don't think, though, that I've ever listened to like Coast and thought, oh, this guy's a wacko. There's just something about the guests that they bring on. So, started listening to him, and I coincidentally, which I do believe in synchronicity, because right around that time, my best friend hit me up from California. He's like, "Oh, I've been doing remote viewing." Huh. I'm like, "Let me know how to do this." I have the energy. So this was about the time I was working for NIC.
Yeah. I was wondering why your eyes were always glazed over at NIC. I had no idea why. Now I know why.
Or just not working. Period. Because that's what was happening there. Like for months on end, I just wasn't doing anything, which is a whole story for another time. But that allowed me to do remote viewing at work. So I was literally being paid while I was learning this craft. Thank you, John Thomas.
Yeah,
if you remember that guy?
Sure. Yeah. A nightmare to remember. Okay.
So the rest is history. It's really a difficult skill to learn, but if you have the rigor and the discipline, and the follow through, it can pay off big time. That's kind of the backstory to it. To me, getting into it, when I first started, when you first start out with remote viewing, it's like, how do you find these answers? How does this process work? And you have some documents there that you could throw up, but basically, like I was saying, it's a very analytical process. You start out by, you have your stack of papers, and you basically do what's called an ideogram. And this is all paper-based, right, and mind-based. But basically, you would sketch out something real fast. You just do a line. That is unzipping the information that you're going to get from the matrix. I know that this sounds super crazy, but it's true. And all this was invented by the U.S. Army a long time ago, with the father of remote viewing, Eagle Swan. And, this was a black op project back in the day. I don't really know. I'm not going to get into the theory and history behind it. But somehow they managed to to figure out that you could do this via paper and via steps. So there's two different types of remote viewing: CRV, controlled remote viewing, and TRV, targeted remote viewing. So that's what I do, the TRV. So you assign a series of numbers to a queue. And a queue is the question you want to ask the matrix, but it has to be formatted properly. That's a big part of it. So here's an example. Let's say you wanted to find out.
Oh, so you got to come up with the right type of question, formatted the right way. So it's like Jeopardy.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, because you can't say potato and then expect potato to win,
What is
right?
a potato? Right. Okay.
Yeah, because you'll just get back garbage. So they've tested all these cues to find out how to get information. So one cue would be like, let's say we want to find out how you die, because you can find that information out. You would just do Dave Darren /death, and then that's going to give you the event of your actual death.
Have you done that one? That's a scary one to do. Have you done that?
The first time I ran it, it was a little scary. I was like a little down. But man, after doing it so long, it's just like, oh, whatever.
So, but you do know now. You know when you're going. You know when. Do you know the circumstances? Do you know all that stuff?
I don't know when. There's no way of knowing exactly when in time, because the matrix is outside of time. So you know that there's an event coming, you just don't know when. So every time I run it, I get something different, because now I know how I'm going to die. So invariably, the future events have changed. The timeline has changed.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Now, I thought remote viewing was an out-of-body thing where you're flying over top of your body.
No, it is it's all subconscious. It's all you're accessing the theta state of, like when you're dreaming. That theta state is how you're accessing the matrix. So when you're done with a session, you are so drained. It's just like you've been to the gym for like 2 hours. That's why it's so difficult. But if you get good, I mean, the sky is the limit. When I first started, and feel free to cut me off because I'm rambling.
No, it's
here.
good. I like this.
But when I first started, I remember a night it was just me at home, and I thought, oh yeah, this is great. I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna bust out a session while the kids aren't here and nobody's here. No distractions. So I go and print off my templates, which you'll show whatever. But I go and print them off. I come up here maybe 3 minutes later because they're on my printer right here, and they're gone. They're not there. And I thought, oh, that's super weird. I heard him print. So I go in my bedroom to do something. I don't even remember what it was. And there they are. They had moved over to my nightstand. And I specifically remember the target we were running was on Elvis Presley, but I don't remember exactly what it was. But that was a little freaky. I did not know that they could I don't know how to phrase this, the other side or whatever you want to call it, could interact with you. Years later, I learned that when you remote view something like an alien or something like that, maybe something demonic, you are opening up a straight doorway to you in your house when you do that. And it's not to be confused with something like the Ouija board. That's not what I'm talking about here. But I'm more cautious now about what I remote view.
Sure.
If it is something demonic, there's a lot of cautious things that you have to take into consideration.
Yeah, we do have a caller, but before I bring the caller in, let me ask you this question because I'm curious about this as well. So, can you actually the matrix? It's you, and it's your target? Can you open the target up to multiple streams, communicate with other streams within the matrix? Is it a social media type of platform, or can you move in that direction and maybe you haven't delved in that direction yet? Is there that capability?
The matrix is the global, it's everything. It's everything past, present, and future.
Huh.
Okay. So, but you're just going out and you're asking a specific question for something.
Yeah.
And this is great when you're trying to find, anything. The great thing about remote viewing is using it to find tangible items. So for example, it could be something as stupid as I lost my remote control. Where is it? And we've ran this session and we found it. You just sketch out where it is using all the descriptors and things like that, and you find it. And that could be expanded to other things like finding missing children or dead bodies, and Ed Dames does a lot on the missing children stuff. But yeah, you're literally querying the matrix for one specific thing. It's not like, hey, I'm going to ask you a question, then I'm going to get a whole bunch of other random things coming in.
Wow, interesting. So let me bring the caller in here. Caller, you're on the Dave Darren Show. How are you?
Pretty good, thanks.
Good. Who is this, by the way? This is maybe it's Teresa, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, somebody else. Okay, fresh new call. Where are you calling from, by the way?
Davenport, Iowa.
Okay, cool. Do you have a question for me or Jeremiah on the topic? We're talking about remote viewing. Any question for either of us?
I missed the first part of it, so how did you get into the remote viewing?
Well, we went through it already. So did you have a general question about remote viewing? Have you done remote viewing? Maybe you're brand new to the topic. Have you listened or reviewed what remote viewing is?
Yeah, I went to a remote viewing conference in Las Vegas and met Lynn Buchanan and Jim Shannon there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Since talked. Yeah.
Have you practiced any of the things you were taught? Are you highly interested in it? Or are you trying to listen to the show and figure out what Jeremiah's experiences were with it? What's your experience with it, remote viewing?
It's been kind of mixed because I've had more premonitions on things, and I didn't go through the remote viewing course. So, like, I reported something, but it kind of came to the point where people thought I was involved because I reported something that I had a strong premonition on. And with remote viewing, when I was there at the conference, they kind of had a test and just kind of gave us, like there's 15 things, just write down what you see, and then it was like FedEx, and what did they do? They did something where it was sealed, so nobody was able to see it beforehand, and then you had to, just write things down, and they had people come take the papers and the test.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that was interesting.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. So thanks for calling, caller. Let me ask Jeremiah a couple questions. Based upon what you said, you can listen in, of course, okay? Hey, Jeremiah, how long does it take to really get involved in this? Like, obviously, the callers, maybe at her initial stages. How long before you can really be successful or be good at this, where you can really start having these communications going on and really, like, focusing on what you want to ask and get the results you're looking for? How long does that take?
And that's a very variable question because you've got people who are naturally psychic who are going to, pick up on this a lot faster. I'm as psychic as a stone. So It took me a long time and a lot of hard work, years to get to where I'm at. I had taken a hiatus. I'm now getting back into it. But she's absolutely right. You start out textures, sounds, and basically how it works is you start to develop this mental image of something, whatever it is, you just pop in on it and you just start describing it. Well, it's smooth, it's circular, it's spinning. And what happens is over time, your subconscious, you'll start to pull back and you'll start to see more of what's going on in the room and around you. And this is where you start to develop, the story behind it. And there's, all kinds of stages and you can do probes and all kinds of stuff. But it basically is like you're dreaming in a way, but remote viewing is really difficult because you can't use your imagination. It's like Ed Dames always says, this is a great example. When you're playing the piano, you don't think about the next note you're going to play. You just do it. And that's exactly how remote viewing is. You can't think about, it's yellow and it's long, it's wooden, it's hard. Oh, it must be a pencil. That's like the biggest trap that you fall into. So there can be no preconceived notions on what you're remote viewing because you'll get the answer wrong every time.
Now, do you teach this as well? Obviously, you've reached some proficiency at this. Are you a guy that actually gets called upon to actually?
No.
You don't? Okay.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't want to teach it.
Huh.
But the guy that, works with me, he's done several workshops. He's taught it. But it's, Oh man, it's so cool when you master it. And you go from simple things when you first start out, and the caller probably knows this too. Is like, I was able to pick up on it was a little stony, and then they revealed the target, which was a church. Like, yeah, that's cool. Like that's a cool first win, a first victory. It's like, wow, I actually saw or perceived this, not saw, but perceived the stone on it. And it starts off from there to the point where you start getting really crazy targets, and the sky is the limit.
So there's no limit to the targets at all. The targets.
No, there is.
Oh, there is. What's some of the limits? I'm curious.
There's only one limit that I have ever found, and I am not an expert on this. So somebody watching this might disagree with me on certain things.
Is it a limit that you found based upon your capabilities, or it's a limit as a whole?
Well, there's that. There is that limit. There's also the limit of your own belief system. If you just don't believe something's possible, that will block you. But there are certain limits. One, if you're not supposed to know the information, or you interfere with somebody else's free will, that you'll be blocked. But there's also, as far as targets, there's only one target that I know that you cannot remote view, and that's the birth of Jesus Christ. You can remote view his death, but you cannot remote view his birth. So it's that's always intrigued me. But yeah, it's
I'm curious about this. For instance, recently we've had on the show before this, or 2 shows before this, we had a gentleman who was on to talk about the flat earth. He believed that the earth was flat. And we also believed that we never landed on the moon. Now you would have the ability to focus on that and not only get your perspective of it, but get the real perspective of what really happened, right? Is that correct?
Oh, true. Yeah, just like the assassination of JFK. We know he was assassinated. What's the true story? And that's just like with landing on the moon. If it's false, like Ed Dames did a thing one time of, were dragons ever real, or were they always folklore? So you will start sketching Chinese doing the dragon thing in the streets, and that's how you know they were never real. Because if they were real, you'd be sketching like fire and real things, and it would be scary. So same with the moon landing or JFK or anything that you think is false. You just view it, and the data will prove one way or the other what was real and what's not. And that's a tough pill to swallow sometimes, because some people don't want to believe certain things. Because the world is so crazy. Anytime I see something crazy in the sky and people are like, what the hell is that? Or these horn sounds that were coming from some couple cities a couple years ago, they were horns and nobody could figure, or the Mothman, what are those things? Some people don't want to know about that kind of stuff. They block themselves from it.
Wow. Now, you mentioned earlier about, for instance, one of the things that this can be used for is to find where missing children are, or potentially abducted children, or things like that. So could people go to a selection of you guys, maybe not you in particular, but can they go to this group and maybe they don't have the skill developed yet, but maybe their child's missing. And they're panicking, because that's, of course, very important to the family to have the child safe. So can they go to one of you guys and say, look, I've got this real problem. I'm in a panicky mode. Can one of you guys help me? So you can take that individual, ask the matrix on that person's behalf what's going on.
Sure. Yeah, and it would take a team of people, just so you know, to do something like that. Because, first of all, you have to narrow down where they're at, and that's very difficult. You have to query the matrix for most recognizable features of where they're around. And I don't do that. Ed Dames really does that kind of stuff for the children and missing people. But it works great for anything. Some of the targets that I haven't been involved in, but my partner has, are going out and finding gold, right? Because California, Arizona. I mean, back in the Wild West days, there's strong boxes probably hidden all over the place that have been lost or whatever, or maybe it's gold flowing through a stream that nobody knows about. So you can use it to find treasure, things like that. People use it to play the lottery.
I was going to ask you about that. Of course, that's a childish question to ask you, but they use it for the lottery.
Yeah, they do. There's actually a course from, I don't want to tout Ed Dames so much, but that's the process that I learned was from him. But There's also predicting Super Bowl outcomes, which I did a couple years ago with the group. I didn't wager any money. I just thought it was a fun thing to do. And you can find out who would win the Super Bowl in advance. But yeah, and there's a lot of caveats to this because things that are way far out in the future can change. Terrorist attacks are another example of that, where I've remote viewed with a group of people the next terrorist attack, and we were seeing a tunnel and an airborne delivery system, like a drone, releasing a toxic chemical in the Lincoln Tunnel. Now, you never saw or heard this because the FBI stopped it, but there's so many attempts that makes me think, like, how many attempts do we not know about? That the FBI has thwarted, right?
Can you limit the focus? For instance, okay, you mentioned the terrorist attack that was going to take place at some point. Now, you didn't know when it was going to take place because you said that the timing of these events, like knowing your death and all, the timing is not specific enough to really know, okay, so I found out that this terror attack is going to take place March 3rd, 2023. You wouldn't be able to know the exact date. Is that correct? You just know it's coming.
There is a technology called RV Chronos, which I have, but I have never. It's too much to get into for me, where you can supposedly nail down dates. But that was way too much for me to handle. It's already hard enough to remote view because, like I said, it just wears you out. But the events that are closer to us have a higher rate of happening versus those that are so far out because there's so many timelines.
Timelines are more stable, right, in that shorter increment, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Can you just open up a random window? For instance, you said you have to have the target. Or can you just go like a Google search in your mind and say, what's going to occur tomorrow and the day after and the day after? 3 days. I want to know what significant events are happening in the next 3 days. That's too random, I'm imagining. It's not a targeted enough thing for what you're talking about.
Yeah, it pretty is. It pretty much is. You have to be more specific.
Yeah.
Or you just get garbage back. That's just the way it is. It's funny with this technology. You think the Matrix could read through the lines, but that's just not the case. You have to target specifically. So some of the crazier things that I've remote viewed are, there was this spaceship, several small spacecraft that were coming down to Earth, and they were called here. They were summoned here.
By who? By someone in the Matrix, or who summoned them?
Well, you'll find out here in a second. So they were called here, and they originated from a mothership, a much larger ship, like massive. But and possibly even interdimensional. And they were extremely intelligent, highly intelligent, and extremely nice. Because I was able to see like who they were and what their intentions were. And I ran this blind, as did some other people. But running it blind means you do not know what the target is. Okay. And the good thing about that is when you compare data, hey, here's a guy that doesn't know what we're running, and he's getting the same information we are.
Yeah. See?
So the odds go up. It's like 80% now, 80, 90% accurate when you have a situation like that. So the Q was revealed, and it was the Phoenix Lights. So that is a weird. That was a weird one. The fact that those things were called here, presumably by our government.
How about that? Interesting. And people don't know exactly what the Phoenix. We hear about the Phoenix Lights all the time. I happen to be in Phoenix now. I've heard about the Phoenix Lights. I wasn't there to actually see it. And now, you've witnessed it through the Matrix. By the way, have you ever asked the Matrix just a general question of who you are, how you began, where you came from?
Well, oh man, this there's too much to go in there. But yes, you can actually run a queue on somebody. If I want to find out who you are as a person, just Dave Darren /who. That'll give you the idea of who this person is. There's also cues to find out, like, hey, I'm going to go into business with this guy. I want to find out if he's legit or if he's lying to me. And you can actually ask questions. You can also do this asking specific questions, not to the Matrix, but you can ask it to either, like guardian angels or the person's higher self. you're just asking these questions and they will get answered. I don't like to do that so much unless it's somebody that's already died, because it really is such an invasion of privacy. But I see a time and a place for it.
So, do you need to know, for instance, okay, so a random person walking down the street, so you would have the ability to reach into that person's identity and figure out who they are, or do you have to know a little bit about them? Do you happen to know a little tiny bit of information from that person, have talked to them a couple times, to have any familiarity, or can you just pull it out of the matrix without knowing anything about this person?
Well, you have to have at least their first and last name.
Oh, okay.
And the fact that you saw them, you're making that connection. Or the better option would be to take a picture of them and throw a TRN on that, a series of numbers. And then the matrix ties that number sequence to that target.
What's a TRN?
So, a TRN is a series of numbers that is used to, it's kind of like DNS in a way. You've got an IP address, and then you've got the names, the actual domain name, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I know this is probably a bad example because
okay.
It's like too techy, but same thing here. You've got a series of numbers that's tied to a queue, and that's what you're doing. A queue or a picture. You can remote view photos.
Yeah. How do you get? You know what? We'll pull up the PDF. I think you sent me one, and we'll walk through this a little bit, and so you can tell us about what we're looking at on the screen, if I can find it.
Yeah, and the TRNs are generated from Ed Dames's website, learnrv.com. That's where we generate them from. But you can put them on, any photo that you want, or, attached to any queue.
Uh-huh.
And there's so many technical things on this. I'm just glazing over.
Well, we'll go through a little bit because I've got it up on the screen now, and I see you put. So let's talk about. I get the form up here. We see stage 1 of site. So tell me a little about this. We won't go through it in detail, but just give us a little idea. So when people go and they're trying to learn this technique, at least we'll give them a couple pages of what they're going to go through. Okay.
Yeah, and when you get to be really good, you don't do this anymore. You don't use these. You just do it on normal bond paper. But basically, you would write the target reference numbers out there. That's it's like a 4-digit series of numbers each. So there's 8 numbers in total.
And how do you get those numbers? So obviously, the first question is, how do you get these numbers?
Those are generated from his website. And the reason we do that is because we need to make sure that those numbers are unique all the time. You can reuse TRNs to rerun the same target over and over and over, but you can't mix. It has to be a unique number each time.
Oh, so it's like when you connect not to get techie about this again, but you want to connect remotely from your computer to some place you're working at, and you've got that RCA token, so the numbers change every 30 seconds or similar to that, I guess, right?
Yeah, but these would never change. But yeah, you would just hit a generate button. It would generate a new series of numbers for you.
New series, okay.
And then you put those down, and then you do a quick little sketch, like just a quick little line. And that's the unzipping that I was talking about earlier. You're accessing the matrix at that point, and then you go into textures. Okay, and you don't think. It's just like, okay, hard, soft, fluffy. You're not thinking. That's the thing. You cannot think, because when you start doing that, you're interjecting. What am I trying to say here? When you make up stuff in your mind, that's imagination. That's the word I was looking for. Okay. Imagination.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and it's very difficult. It is extremely difficult.
One of the things that's easy now is you said you can't really think deeply into this. You just got to do it off the top of your head, right?
Yeah, you just got to keep going.
It's great for today's society because there's not a lot of people to think anymore. So this is good for some people that want to do this. Right? It's very easy.
And it's hard because there is some, there's a lot of truth to that, because it's like, that's all we do. That's all our brains do is come up with scenarios and imagination. Anybody that's done any meditation will tell you that too. Uh-huh. So it's very difficult to turn that off, and that's why there's that AOLS, analytical overlay. You're just supposed to write it out.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, we do have a caller here, Jeremiah. Let's take this for a second, okay? Hi there. We have a caller. Who's on the call? Who do we have?
Hey there. Is this Dave? This is Sparky calling.
Oh yeah. Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing just great. Congratulations on your show. I'm really happy for you.
Oh, thanks so much. I have Jeremiah on here. We're talking about remote viewing. And it's interesting because Jeremiah was talking about the Phoenix lights, which are obviously the UFO sighting. I don't know the date of this. I don't remember when it was. But Sparky is actually on the call now to talk about a UFO sighting that I think she's seen. Is that correct, Sparky? So we'll let Jeremiah hear this.
Yes, that's most definitely true.
Yeah, let's bring her in here. You don't mind hanging around, Jeremiah, to hear this, right?
No, of course
Okay,
not.
here we go. Let's talk about this, Sparky. Where did you see this?
Okay, sure.
When did you see it?
Well, I'm really happy to be able to share it. Well, it was on November 21st, 1999. And a friend and I were driving along Highway 1, which is on the coast of California. And so you're right off the ocean. Okay. And I'm a sky watcher. I read my first UFO book when I was about 10 years old, and I've watched the skies ever since. I've seen a lot of interesting things, but nothing that I could really say that was, I for sure saw a UFO, so nothing notable, okay? So we're driving along, so you can tell by this, I'm a sky watcher. So I'm looking at the sky, and the sun was about soon to set. And the moon was out at that time also. So I said to him, hey, Tommy, what's that gold streak in the sky up there? And it was a gold streak in the sky. I'm not really good about measuring things or talking about heights. So I can say that it was over the ocean. And the streak in the sky was about what you could maybe identify to as the half of a football field, okay? So I said, well, what do you think it is? He goes, well, I don't know. So he pulls over to the side of the road, and he said, I got my spotting scope in the trunk. And I went, oh, cool. And what it was is he was a fisherman, so he had a really cool spotting scope. So he went and got out of the car and brought the spotting scope and put it up to his eyes and started looking out at this gold streak in the sky. So I said to him, well, what is it? Is it just a cloud? And he didn't answer me. He's like frozen. So I said, Tommy, what are you looking at? And silence. So by then I'm getting a little bit annoyed. And I said, well, what are you looking at? So he slowly puts the spotting scope away from his eyes, turns around and looks at me. He looks totally terrified. He goes, it's a UFO. And I give me that thing. So I looked, and sure enough, and that's what it was. Literally, I guess all I can say is just sitting in the sky, just sitting up there. Now, what threw me off is this craft that I was looking at, stationary in the sky, was gold colored. Now, I had never, ever read any kind of a report or heard anything on the Art Bell show or any other shows that talked about a gold craft. So I'm looking at this thing. It's gold. It's a saucer-shaped craft. It has a dome on it. However, not a dome is a dome. It's a dome, but it's a flat-topped dome on the craft. And it just sat there above the water in the sky. And I decided I was going to watch this thing. I don't care how long it took. I was going to watch it. So my mind is going, okay, I'm actually seeing something from somewhere else. Why is it gold? So I thought to myself, okay, the sun is setting. There's got to be a reflection somehow on whatever material this craft is made of that is causing it to look gold. Well, the sun ended up setting. The craft is still up there. Tommy is still freaking out, looking terrified. I could just glance over a couple of times and saying nothing. Well, I was going to watch this thing. I didn't care how long it took. I was going to watch this thing until it disappeared, took off, or did whatever. Well, I watched it. Sun went down. It was still gold. It was still a craft in the sky sitting there. And then all of a sudden it tipped to, like I would say, about a 45-degree angle and simply shot off.
Wow.
And it was gone. It was just gone in a couple of seconds.
Wow. Tremendous. I love that story. But Let me get back to Jeremiah because I think Jeremiah has some time limit here. But Sparky, thanks for calling. And by the way, call again, or anyone wants to call 609-467-4000. And let's let Sparky go. I'm sorry I got to cut you short, but I want to get Jeremiah back. Okay?
Okay, no problem.
All right, super. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Absolutely. So back to Jeremiah. By the way, the gold crap, I do know what that was. I do know what it was. If it landed, there would be a bunch of aliens coming out with gold chains, playing hip hop music right on the big vehicle, and that's what that's what it was. It was the hip hop craft.
We could probably handle something like that, but that is a great example of something you had said earlier. Just one more answer to it, where she witnessed something, and we have to remote view that. So what you would put is her name, and I'm probably borking the cue here a little, but you would put her name, and then you would put / UFO sighting event. I mean, that's what it is. It's UFO.
Yeah.
So UFO sighting event, and then what the Matrix does is through the chain of custody, because I just listened to her. I now know her basically through the Matrix. It just knows. Oh, I'm talking about her. And that specific event. So that's how we're able to, find out things like that. That would be an interesting session to run. But more importantly, why were they there? That sort of thing.
Yeah. So actually, you do, I guess, believe in UFOs or extraterrestrial life. You're connected with that, and you find that there's validation in that.
Oh yeah, no, their aliens are there. We've remote viewed them many times.
Are they living in the globe, the planet Earth? Or they live? Obviously, I have some people say that they are here. They're in disguise. They look like us. Are they here? Do they look like us? What's going on with this?
So, the ones that I have remote view come from distant star systems. There also there is a group of aliens that do watch out over the Earth. They're like the Guardians, and they prevent things like nuclear wars and things like that, but that's going way too deep for right now. Aliens for sure exist. Bigfoot is an alien. That thing comes down from a gigantic mothership, and it from some other planet, and it comes down here, and then it disappears. That's why it doesn't live here. That's why you'll never be able to walk up on one.
Loch Ness Monster. Is that another one, or what is that one about?
Oh, see that? Yeah. Never ran that Q. That would be an interesting one.
Yeah.
That would be a for sure interesting target. The craziest thing I ever saw. Well, actually, the one that really scared me the most, and I don't even know why this scared me so much. Probably because I biolocated, and when you biolocate, Dave, it's almost like you are there. And I can't explain that to you. It's just you actually feel like you're at the target site. And I had seen these hybrid alien human things, and I got a good look at this guy's face, and it scared the hell out of me. I don't know if he was nice or not or whatever. I don't even remember what the target was, but just his look of his face, like it wasn't like if you saw this guy walking down the street, you'd be like, boy, that's a weird looking dude. I can't put my finger on it, but there's something off there. So that was the scariest. The weirdest thing I ever saw was on Saturn. This was ran by many viewers. There was a jail, like an intergalactic jail or something, and they all these bad aliens, if you will, are put there. And some of these aliens, for whatever crimes they might have done, some of them are just energy beings, some are machines, some are actual physical beings. So you really have to have an open mind. This is the kind of stuff I'm talking about in order to see this stuff. And it's all corroborated by other people. Everybody's running the same sessions,
But, so you did say that now you can use the same session, those same digits of numbers, to re-engage where you were at one point, right?
Yeah.
So is it a start over, a variation, or can it be a continuation? Like, for instance, you met this one alien that scared the heck out of you, but you didn't know if it was a legitimate fear. You just didn't get to know this session that you had to really get to know this being. If you wanted to, can you go back with the series of numbers and get more acquainted with that individual? In other words, can you continue the relationship with this being?
Right. Yeah. In advanced stages, which is where I'm at, you would basically generate another TRN and slap it on your site temp. It's too much to go into, but the short answer to your question is yes. You can revisit stuff, and even if you're not running movements and stuff on these specific targets, it just rerunning the exact TRN again can yield more to the story, because every time you access that, you're making that pipeline stronger. You're making that connection stronger. So people who have remote viewed whatever in Ed Dames's class, if he uses like the same session over and over and over, you're going to get some really good data, because everybody's been down that road to that specific target. So it makes it more clear.
Okay, now another question came up based upon what you were saying. So you're locked in with these series of numbers to your target. That target is also in the matrix. Is that correct? That target's in the matrix, or can be outside the matrix?
Everything is in the matrix.
Everything is in the matrix.
This pencil, events, a leaf, a bug, everything is everything.
Okay, so you've targeted and you're in the matrix and you've met this identity, this being, whatever it is. Now that person everything's in the matrix, so he's in the matrix. Now he may be in the matrix but not know what he's doing.
No, he was at a bar. He was in a barn.
Okay.
Like a house, a secluded house at the time in Sholo area, Payson. So it's not like I'm just reaching out to the cosmos and I see people. That's not how it works.
Right.
The TRN is like whatever it was at that time. I just remember seeing that guy, and there was another of him too. So yeah, you're targeting people.
Okay, now when you targeted him, does he know where the target came from? In other words, if he wanted to reestablish and initiate a session with you, since you connected with him, would he be able to then say, you know what, I had an interesting dealing with this individual, I'd like to re-engage with him? Can he lock into that and communicate with you based upon his efforts to do so?
Yeah, but he doesn't need paper and pen to do it. I don't know too much about hybrid aliens, but aliens, they're all they all work via telepathy. So they don't need. All they need to do when you remote view them, they see you. They can see you.
Oh wow!
Right. So that's the part that kind of scared me a little. Like one night I'm sitting watching TV, and this probably came from a session, because why else would this have happened? But I'm sitting here watching TV. I see my front door open, and it was totally locked, and opened up, and I went and I reached around, and I was like looking at the door, and no wind at all, and it went open even more real fast. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I got to find out what that was, and that turned out to be alien in nature, which I thought it might have been a ghost, but that was a super weird one. So when you lock onto them, you're instantly connecting to them.
Is there a way to deny? Is there a do not call list of the Matrix?
Anything that violates free will.
Oh, you did say that in the beginning of this, right? Okay.
Yeah, you're not allowed to interfere with other people's. When you're born into this life, you incarnate with a series of lessons that you need to learn. So if you, as a remote viewer, try to do something that interferes with that, you will be blocked.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's kind of the only weird thing. Some things that have been remote viewed, and I'm just throwing this out there just to prove the point that nothing's off limits, no matter how hard people try. Because, this technology was developed by the United States government, the U.S. Army, specifically for spying on the Russians. So the great thing is to turn it around, and some of the cues that my buddy gave me last night, just because I wanted him to be absolutely correct, is United States / most secret current classified program. What is the most classified program that the United States government is working on? And then you could go as far as to say United States / most secret current weapons system. And we've seen some. I've ran these before, and it blows my mind to the point where you're just like, wow, like God. You just
yeah, it's amazing. It is actually. So there's no limits to this except for the limits of free will. That's
Basically, and there might be some other caveats there, but these cues or you can, like, if you wanted to take a picture of Area 51, and then put a TRN on a building, and you could go inside that building and see what they're doing in there.
Wow. Now, you mentioned it was developed by the United States. Do we have a head start on it, or are the Russians, the Russian collusion, is that a guy in Russia tied into the Matrix? Is that what this was all about?
And they do remote viewing, and they were around that same time as well doing it. If you go, the only reason I know that is just from Ed Dames's interviews on Coast to Coast, because he had a Russian counterpart, and they were involved in a lot of psychic spying. So that's basically
okay.
But yeah.
Sparky actually wrote something here. Let me read some of the questions here. Do you have a couple of minutes more? Because I know you had. Okay.
Yeah.
One of them from Sparky, who called us in earlier, so thanks for a call again. Have you ever done any remote viewings using a technique taught by Silva Mind Control? I have and have done so. Have you? Do you know what this is?
I don't. I mean, there's
Silva
CRV, which is controlled remote viewing, and that was done with Paul Smith, and there's so many people, head honcho type people, that I just don't know, but maybe that's what she's referring to. There really are two camps. There's the TRN, which is the Ed Dames method, and then there's the CRV, the Paul Smith method, and they're all very different, even though they all get the same or similar results.
Mm-hmm. When you talk, I have another. Let's see. There was another question here. Have you and one other person ever worked together to collaborate on a matrix target? You and one other person focused your skills on one target, and can you do that? That's the question asked here.
Well, that's the better thing to do, because alone you're about 70% accurate if you just do it by yourself. When you do it in a group of one or more, it goes up to between 80 and 90%. Yeah, wow. Because one person's going to run it blind, right? So you're going to get somebody who doesn't even know what you're remote viewing, but you do. So what you do is, after the session, you compare notes. Oh my gosh, you saw that too? That was, and it's like, now you're both on the same target.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned anyone can do this. Now, everyone's skill level, just like when they play an instrument, where they play sports, everyone's got their own capability, their level of ESP, or whatever you want to call it. Everyone can do it to a degree. There's no one who can not do it to a certain degree without reaching the pinnacle that other people have reached, obviously. Is that correct? Or
yeah, I mean, the thing about that is, I don't know how to play the piano, but I could teach myself. But it would be a lot of hard work, and I might give up. And that's generally what happens. People give up. But if you see it through, and like I said earlier, you have the discipline, the rigor to follow, through and hone your craft and learn it, and it's amazing what you can see.
Is there a best frame of mind to do this with? Like, you come home from work, you're kind of beat up after work. What's the best? You're sitting at home, the lights are out, you're looking up in the sky. It's a quiet evening. What's the best scenario to get your best results from this viewing?
Well, first of all, when you get really good, I have done it in a car full of screaming kids before.
Wow.
But that's when you get really good.
Yeah.
But you're never supposed to do it when you've been drinking, or you're sick, or high, or anything that could prevent you from, really grabbing onto that signal.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Wow. Wow. Well,
sometimes tiredness, you're not supposed to really do it when you're tired, but sometimes I have found that can work to your advantage, because then your critical mind stops thinking a lot, your imaginative mind, but.
One last question, and I will let you go, because I know you have a limit here. So one last question. It's funny, like I said, I've never seen a UFO. I wish I did, although I don't know what my reaction would initially be. No one knows your reaction when you see the first thing that you've never seen. You can really never dictate how macho you'd be, how scared you'd be, if you happen to carry a firearm, if you shoot at it. If something's coming down from space, you with a firearm is not going to hurt that vehicle. Even the gold one with the hip-hop music in it. But I am curious about this. The only thing I've really had is I'll be laying in bed, asleep, and then I'll be aware that I'm awake, but I can't physically move my body. Is there anything, do you have anything with that? Do you understand that at all? Has that happened to you? Is that something where I could be more receptive in that moment to doing something like this because it seems like my body is not there, but my mind is fully empowered?
Yeah, no, remote viewing is
No.
strictly pen and paper and follow that process.
How about that?
Anything outside of that, I mean, I don't know, maybe sleep paralysis, or maybe you were having a dream within a dream. But, one quick story. Before I got into this, I had this crazy, very vivid dream. I mean, very, very vivid. I was a female in 1970, and I had hitchhiked in a bus. And this dream was long. It's like a movie.
Wow. Wow.
And I had hitchhiked across a bus, or in a bus across, I don't know, it looked like the canyons or hills of PCH, as it's like Highway 1 as it's winding up through California.
Pacific Coast Highway, right.
Yeah, and I had gotten out and I had thrown my baby over the edge, and I remote viewed that, and I was able to find out that actually happened. And
Wow.
And it turned out that was my past life. I was a girl. I was that girl. And I had done that, and then I did a past life regression on that just to find out even more details. But dreams do come a lot more vivid. You don't become psychic. I don't want to, misconstrue anything here, but you will start you'll start noticing things, synchronicity, starts happening a little bit more.
That could have,
and that's just
yeah.
because you're opening that part of the brain.
That could have been a scary thing. Obviously, you were that woman who had the baby. So it's almost like Michael Jackson dangling the baby from over the thing. But
Yeah.
But now that happened. Now you could go to that and you could say you could get on a path of kind of negativity and destruction by then trying to target that child and seeing
Well,
you could get that can get really scary, right? Obviously,
through
anything gets scary.
through the past life regression, I saw that she had made up with the child because
Oh.
she ended up killing herself. But here's the thing that I would love to do. This would be the all-time kicker. I want to find her gravestone. That would be,
Right.
be truly something cool. Because we've already seen her body in the casket. We know what she's wearing. We know what she was buried in even. But it's like,
Who's
where
the
is
we? Who's the we? You and
Oh,
others.
a team of people. Yeah,
team of people.
I generally never run these by myself.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, I always run with somebody else just because you get more data that way.
Uh-huh.
So that would be the all-time kicker.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding, right? Wow. Well, Jeremiah, was great having you on the show. I'd love
Yeah.
to learn more about this. I'm going to have you come on when my audience for this particular show starts to grow, because obviously there's only the 4 shows, so there's not a huge audience. But as the audience grows, I'd love to have you come back and tell us about it again, and we'll try to go beyond where we got to this time. So I'll keep the show on record so I know where we left off, so I know where we can continue. I've got the TRN number, so I know where we left off.
And I'll do one better as I get
Okay.
back into this because I have taken a hiatus here, so I need to recalibrate myself. You shoot me a target you want to find out something about, and we'll run it as a project.
I think I'm too scared about that. I don't know. All the targets I've got in my mind are all demons in my closet and skeletons in my closet.
Oh, yeah.
You know me. You've met me. You know how dark I can get, right? It would have been interesting to. I'll tell you one of the things I thought that would be useful for this, and now because I thought it was an out-of-body experience, and it's kind of not what I thought it was. And it's good that I didn't research. As I said, when I have interviews, I don't research a lot because I want to learn with the audience. I thought it was an out-of-body thing where we could get, like, the price of lap dances has gotten expensive. So I thought I can go in there and I could be getting a lap dance for free, but then I'd have to be on the body of the guy getting the lap dance. So that was bad. And I thought also we could have gone back in time and seen Monica Lewinsky get splooged on. I thought that could have happened. But it's not exactly that. So I was misled by not knowing what the heck I was talking about.
And that's an event you could run if you wanted.
That's right. That's right. Well, Jeremiah, it was great having you show, and please do when you get back into this and you're really heavily into it, which will not be that long. Because is it like exercising or like riding?
It's like riding a bike. I just got to get exactly.
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna hit you up. Hopefully in a few months we got a bigger audience, and we're gonna talk more about this in more detail. And maybe at that point I'll be brave enough to come up with something for you to do a target on for me.
That sounds awesome.
Okay. All right. Talk to you later, Jeremiah. Thanks a lot for being on the Dave Darren Show. Peace out.
Thanks, man. Bye.
Okay, bye. All right, guys. So that was Jeremiah, and it was a blast having him on the show. And that's it for the Dave Darren Show tonight. Make sure you join this show and enjoy it. Be part of it. Dial 609-467-4000 in the future to be part of it. So tonight we had a remote viewer on. We talked about that. We had a person call up about a UFO viewing that she had, which was tremendous. I've got to get more people involved in this show to make this show grow so we all have something to enjoy. So if you are a member of the Art Bell Experience group that we're part of right now, please give me a call, 609-467-4000, or email me at dave@davedarren.com. Darren is D-A-R-I-N. Get on the show as a guest. You can do either a Skype thing like we did with Jeremiah, or you can just call in and I'll be the guy on the video and you'll be the guy with the voice talking to me and talking to the guest. Please make this an interactive show. So give me a hand with this show, okay? 609-467-4000. We'll be back on Sunday night. Sunday night it's an earlier show. Be part of that show. Let me know if you want to be a guest on the show or a caller on the show. We'd love to have you. All right, that's it for tonight. Ciao. See you guys later.